Namanda, 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 namanda. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our March Shotsuki monthly memorial service and adult Dharma service. I think we can begin. So I'd like to begin by reading the names of those who have passed away in this month of March. Genmatsu Aikawa, Shizuko Aikawa, Larry Choi, Sadajiro Fuji, Motojiro Fukuda, Garrett Gluck, Kiichi Richard Goto, Masato Hashimoto, Reverend Akira Hata, Catherine Fumiko Hata, Ryokichi Hayashida, Shizue Hirabayashi, Ayako Hirai, Asano Hirota, Tom Honda, Edward Tatsuo Hori, Jitsuo Horimoto, David Hoshide, Juntaro Ichikawa, Agnes Ide, Shigeko Ide, Unoe Inouchi, Kotoku Inoue, Ryohei Inoue, Deborah Ishida, Beverly Ishizu, Yoshio Isono, Sukejiro Kamano, Masame Kanagaki, Heiji Kano, Raymond Kano, Tsutomu Kasai, Umeo Kasai, Fujio Kataoka, Yohei Kataoka, Sue Kawabata, Tsuru Kawabata, Hideko Kida, Martha Kido, Gary Kobori, Jutaro Kubota, James Kurata, Umejiro Kuritsubo, Kyoko Kuwahara, Nancy Kuwahara, Shigeki Kuwahara, Osami Sam Maruyama, Reverend Kenyu Masuyama, Kojiro Matsui, Tayo Matsui, Henry Matsutani Jr., Hagino Matsuoka, Minoru Matsumoto, Fred Maeda, Tarobe Minamidani, Kame Mitsuda, Kohei Miyamoto, Masato Miyamura, Kyoko Mizuki, Masao Mori, Yoshimatsu Mori, Zeiichiro Morimoto, Matsue Morishita, Tayo Morishita, Misao Murakawa, Toshio Murakawa, Zenkichi Murakawa, Reverend Gyosei Nagafuji, Yoko Nagafuji, Hatsu Nakai, Junji Nakashima, George Nakatani, Tsuneko Nakatani, Yasutaro Nakatani, Henry Natsuhara, Alexander Negoro, Michiko Nehira, Hiroshi Neishi, Mitsugi Neishi, Kyoichi Nobori, Masami Nobori, Joan Nomura, Terashi Nomura, Sueko Norimoto, Ohata family, Sadao Okai, Misao Okano, Fujio Okawa, Shigenobu Okawachi, Joe Okumura, Masai Onizuka, Kei Ota, Ryuichi Otaguro, Baiseki Otsuka, Asataro Otsuka, Shigeru Sakaki, Kichimatsu Satake, Minoru Satake, Misao Satake, Shokichi Satake, Tetsuo Shigaya, Frank Shimamoto, Zenichi Shimamoto, Shizuko Shiroyama, Ben Nosuke Sugiyama, Shin Takahashi, Jeffrey Takagaki, Ishii Takata, Masue Tanaka, Suekio Tanisawa, Matsuyo Toji, Unkichi Toyofuku, Isoko Umeki, Sadato Ushijima, Jintaro Yamamoto, Saikichi Yamamoto, Shigeru Yamamoto, Yoshizo Yamamoto, Yukie Yamamoto, Sono Yamashita, William Yamazaki LaRue, Motoichi Yanagi, Totaro Yokoi, Tane Yokoi, Eisaku Yoshida, Haruno Yoshioka, Tsurue Yoshisato, Fusako Yuto, Jitsuyo Yuto, Kayoko Yuto. Okay, next we will have Sutra chanting. And today let's chant Sanbutsuge. And that is on... page 22 in the small book, page 79 in the large book. Namandab, 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 namandab. Kogen gigi ijin mugok nyoze enmyo muyo tosha nichigatsumani shuko enyo kai shitsu onpei yunyaku jumok nyorai yogen chosemurin shogaku daion koru jippo kaimon shojin sanmai chie itoku muryo shushoke jintai zennen shobutsu hokkai gujin jin no kugo gaitai mumyo yokunu sesonyomu nino shishi jintoku muryo kukun kodai chie jinmyo komyo iso shindo daisen ganga sabuts zai shoho kado shoji mifugedatsu fusejoi kainin shojin nyoze sanmai chie ijo gosei tokubutsu fugyo shigan isai kuku isadayan keshi ubutsu hyakusen okuman muryo daisho shunyo goja kuyo isai chito shobutsu punyo gudo kensho fukyak hinyo goja shobutsu sekai bufukake mushu setsudo 公明師匠変師匠国如是精進異人難女両が差別国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国女内音任務闘争がと愛民道達一切実法来生心熱症状意図が国経楽安の古物神妙是が心象発願の非力少々欲実法世尊知恵無下上領子孫知が信用軽量心死食毒中画行精進忍辱不敬Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. Okay, next let's recite the three treasures, which is on page 3 in the small purple book. The three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma, now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow and the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves your supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord, in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Okay. So thank you very much for attending our March Shotsuki monthly memorial and adult Dharma service. And I had notes that I had typed up last night, and I was looking at them, and I was like, really? Is this what I wanted to talk about? Like, I don't think that's everything. And I was sitting there, and then as I was reading the list, it dawned on me. I'd emailed myself more stuff after that. And so what I kind of want to talk about a little bit today is the movie Gladiator. Have you seen that? Gladiator? We need Russell Crowe now. Right? Can't Russell Crowe come and save us? It seemed very timely in a lot of ways. But that's not the aspect of it that I want to talk about. I'd never seen it before. And it happened to come up on TV, and I started watching it, and I was like, yeah, this is actually kind of interesting. And so I recorded it. I found a later showing and recorded it so I could watch from the beginning. And one of the scenes that struck me near the beginning, so if you don't know what it's about, it takes place, around 250 BC or AD, Roman Empire, up in Germanic tribes, and so they're in the northern edges of the Roman Empire, Aurelius, who's one of the famous kind of philosopher Caesars, right? Philosopher emperors of Rome, and Caesar. I can't think of his name, but he's really famous. And so there's this general Maximus, right? And so he's the military genius who's winning these battles, right? And so at one point, he is marshaling his troops, getting ready to attack the hordes, right? And he says to the men, he's shouting out to the men, if you find yourself riding in the field with the sun shining on your face, you're dead. And they all laugh, right? You're in Elysium, and that means you did a good job and you died in battle. Okay, so I was like, whoa, that's interesting, Elysium. Right? And I've heard that term before, but it made me look it up. And it's this Roman notion of an afterlife. Only for certain people, right? One, the idea develops over time, and one is for great heroes, right? And maybe warriors. So they're getting ready to go into battle, and it just makes you think, right? There have been soldiers throughout time, people battling throughout time. You don't know if you're going to survive, right? You don't know what's going to happen. But if someone's leading you in a way that motivates you, right, you go in, right, and do your best. And so when he says this, right, if you find yourselves riding in a field with the sun shining on your face, right, sounds wonderful, right? But that means that you've died in battle, right? And now here you are in this paradise. And so the reason I'm thinking about it is because, we have an idea of the Pure Land, right? That our Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu, Jodo means literally pure land, right? And this idea of the Pure Land is a fundamental part of our Buddhism. Okay? And the way I conceive of the people in the list that I read, right? I read out all these names, and my understanding is they've all been born in the Pure Land. So what does that mean? And I think one aspect of it is paradise, right? It's some kind of paradise. Different than Elysium, right? Different. It's not only for warriors. It doesn't have anything to do with being a great warrior or battles or anything like that. Instead, it's a place where basically I think there's no difficulty. It's just bliss, right? It's just life is comfortable and easy and wonderful. right? And it's this ancient Indian idea from at least 2,000 years ago, if not earlier, right? And some of my favorite ones, I mean, there's wonderful trees and palaces and pools. The ground is made of like crystal. There's all these gems, and the light is flickering and twinkling. But then, another one of my favorite parts is the pools. You can take a bath, right? And you get into the pool, and the water comes up to just the right level and just the right temperature. Okay, so Indian people are thinking about this stuff, right? Like 2,000 years ago. That's one of the images of paradise. To us, it's like, what's the big deal? I have that. I have that at home. I mean, it takes a little while if I want to take a bath. I have to run the water, but hot water comes out. You know, what's the big deal? 2,000 years ago, kind of a big deal, right? That you can't easily take a bath like that. Another aspect is the food just magically appears, and you don't even have to consume it. It just goes into you and you enjoy it. It doesn't come out the other end. It's just, it magically kind of dissipates. So this wonderful, wonderful place, and you're kind of like, what's the big deal about that? For me, if it comes out the other end, I just flush and it's gone. People didn't have that 2,000 years ago, right? Plumbing was a big deal. The Romans did a good job, actually, with their aqueducts and everything. But those are some aspects of the Pure Land. But another, and it starts to get important when we realize when the breeze blows, there's just a gentle breeze. And we know what horrible winds can be like around here, right? I've had trees fall down in my neighborhood due to horrible winds. This isn't horrible winds. Gentle breeze. And it cools you down, but it also makes the gems in the trees twinkle. And when you hear the twinkling, you think, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Right? That hearing these things makes you think of Buddhism. It makes you think of Buddhist ideas. It might even awaken you to the idea of the uncreatedness of all dharmas. Nothing is created, nothing goes, it's all empty. Right? Oh, and also all these Buddhist ideas too. And so the Pure Land is not only paradise, it's also a place where we can be Buddhist freely. Right? And we can do Buddhist practices, and we can even awaken. Right? So it's not only paradise. Another thing is, like I kind of hinted at, it's not a place that only certain kind of people can go. Right? This is a place where anyone can be born. Doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your race, doesn't really, well, maybe it might matter your religion, but I don't know, is it even beyond that? Right? It doesn't matter age, doesn't matter intelligence, doesn't matter how much wealth you have. Wealthy people aren't more likely to go, or someone who isn't wealthy isn't excluded. Because it's connected to Amida Buddha. This is Amida Buddha's Pure Land, right? And Amida Buddha accepts each one of you as you are. You don't have to be something else. There's nothing about you being excluded because you're not good enough or something like that. And so it kind of makes me think. Some people hate it kind of might sound like heaven too, right? And we have some ideas of like Christian heaven maybe. Right? And I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I definitely meet people who are like, oh, that's ridiculous. How could someone believe that now in these days? Right? Heaven, come on. That's just a fairy tale. Right? And I actually encounter a fair number of people who don't like that idea. Right? And so they hear about this idea in Buddhism, and they're like, what are you talking about? That's not what Buddhism's really about. Right? Isn't Buddhism about rely on yourself and awaken to something? I think it's something about awakening, and so it doesn't have anything to do with a heaven, right? There's all different kinds of Buddhisms, right? And our school of Buddhism's idea of the Pure Land, I think, is kind of unique. Because I've been describing it as a place, right? I don't know where the Elysium fields are. If they're in a certain direction or something, or if they're just up, right? But one description of the Pure Land is it's in the west. It's in the western direction. Sai ho jodo, right? The sai is nishi, like west, if you know nishi, like nishi honganji, right? That nishi is west, but the Chinese pronunciation, the onyomi is sai. Ho is direction, so sai ho jodo, the Pure Land in the western direction. And the sutras talk about that. So one aspect of the Pure Land is it's in a certain direction, it's in a certain place. I think we should be looking west when we look at the Buddha. Like in Kyoto, the temples are set up. Most temples are set up so that when you look at the Buddha, you're looking north. But Pure Land temples, when you look at Buddha, you're looking west, because that's the direction of where Buddha is supposed to be. Our temple, I don't think the Oakland streets are on a northwest grid, north-south grid, right? It's kind of tilted. So I think west is that way, but it might actually be that way. Is it that way, right? It's confusing to me. I always kind of thought it was north-south oriented. It's like, no, it's kind of like that, right? This isn't the western direction, but one way we can think, and actually this area where I'm standing is called the Gejin, the inner area, but it's also supposed to be the Pure Land. It represents the Pure Land, right? So that's why we're only really supposed to be up here, especially during a service, only ordained people and only in the robes. Right? And so, this is kind of like a special area. This is Amida Buddha's realm. Right? And then, where you are is the Gejin, the outer area, right? The samsara, looking towards the Pure Land. Here's the key thing, okay? For Shinran Shonin, I think from the Gejin, from samsara, the Pure Land seems other. It's not here, right? It's someplace else. It's something different than me. And Buddha, too, is in one sense different. That's why we say other power, tariki, right? This really important concept in Buddhism. Amida is this other. But from Buddha's perspective, it's all one. There's no this or that, or you out there and me up here, or you and me even. It's actually all one. It's all empty. It's this one thusness. Right? That's Buddha's perspective. If I'm not enlightened, I don't have that perspective, right? So that this isn't the Pure Land for me. The Pure Land is something else. But for Shinran, the Pure Land isn't a place. It's actually awakening itself, enlightenment, right? So that our loved ones who have passed away have been born in the Pure Land, but that also means they've become Buddhas. They're awakened. Right? So that we can think of them. One way we can think, and I think it's okay, we can think of them in the Pure Land as a kind of paradise, right? This wonderful place. I know some of you like to gamble, right? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, right? But I know some of you like to gamble, right? And sometimes at funerals you hear, oh, she's in the Pure Land, gambling away, And so my question is always, in the Pure Land, if you're gambling, if it's real, do you always win? Right? And the Twilight Zone, there's a Twilight Zone episode where this gangster thinks he's in heaven because it's like a casino, right? But then he always wins. He always wins every single time. And by the end of the episode, he's like, oh, it's driving me crazy. Why heaven is so boring? You just win all the time. And the guy who's been with him this whole time is like, what makes you think you're in heaven? Right? So, but I don't know. What do you think of gambling in the Pure Land? Maybe you win just enough that it's interesting. Huh? Because if you won all the time, it's not interesting anymore, right? You wouldn't lose all the time either. Oh, middle way maybe, huh? But so we can think of the Pure Land, I think, in that way. Think about our loved ones not suffering anymore, right? And enjoying the gentle breezes and the baths and the wonderful meals. But really, they're not there. They're not staying there. They're here, thinking about us. Right? They're part of this wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. Right? They've awakened to that wisdom and compassion and are thinking of us always. In the earlier service, I talked a little about perspective, right? And how sometimes things happen to us, and it's like, why me, right? Or why couldn't I have hit that jackpot? That person next to me, right? If only it had been me. If only I was going to go to that machine and I didn't get it. Right? If it had been me, I would have grabbed it. Right? But that's one perspective. Right? Maybe sometimes something makes us think, but maybe that's not all there is. Right? Maybe it's not the way I thought. Maybe there's another way to think about it. And I think sometimes that perspective is being shown to us by Amida Buddha or maybe by our loved ones. right? Getting us to see things in a different way, not just from my tunnel vision, my own perspective, which is limited, right? But something bigger. So I've been trying to encourage all of us, myself included. I think since last year, it's been about a year that I started talking about this, trying to say the Nembutsu more, trying to say the Nembutsu in daily life, right? We say it here. I can hear you when I say Namo Amida Butsu. I hear everyone else saying it, right? And that's part of why we come to church, so that we can say the Nembutsu together. Right? But I think it's important for us also to say it in our daily lives when we're not here. Right? Whether we're frustrated by something or catch ourselves kind of spiraling, thinking about stuff and fantasizing and getting upset, or it could be all kinds of stuff. It could be when something doesn't go my way. It could be when things are going great. Either way, any range of ways. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. Right? To say this, not to show other people I'm saying it, right? Not to, and don't do it because I told you to. That's not the right reason, right? But if that gets you to say it, okay, for now, for temporary, right? But I find that Namo Amida Butsu gets us, we're just wandering around in our daily lives, thinking about this, thinking about that, worrying about this, concerned about that, wanting this, right? Hating that, all the time. Namandabits, namandabits, turn us back towards the Buddha, right? Help us a little bit even, get away from just this constant running around and thinking about things without even thinking, right? Mindlessly thinking about all this stuff. Nembutsu is also mindfulness of the Buddha, right? Namo Amida Butsu. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. So if we can kind of incorporate that maybe into our lives, right? Rather than have to wait for Sunday, that any day of the week, any time, bedtime, driving time, shower time. I say it in the shower a lot of the time because I'm trying to think of my Dharma Talk, and then I'm thinking about other stuff and getting upset. Namandam, namandam. Driving in the car, what, they just cut me off? Come on, what are you, I should blah, blah. Namandam, namandam. Not worth it, right? That's not the ultimate Nembutsu, but if Buddha's in my life, right, that's a way to have Buddha in my life. Namo Amida Butsu. Right? Maybe you think today, especially, think about loved ones whose names I read in the list, right? It's hard to read that list. I feel so fortunate that I can pronounce Japanese names. It's still hard. And some of them are old and they got Y's where there's no Y's anymore, right? And so, trying to read it right. Sometimes someone pronounces their name a little different and I try to remember that, right? And yet, it's also maybe one of my favorite things about temple, right? And I've been doing it for 15 years here. I did it, 25 years ago when I was a student sometimes, a couple times, to read these names. I haven't met a lot of them, but some of them I know recently, some of them I know even from 25 years ago, right? And I read those names and images pop up. I have to keep reading, so I can't dwell on it. Right? But I know for you, hearing the names read this morning and hearing name or names of your loved ones, right? I'm sure it brought them to mind, right? And so today, maybe especially too, think about them through the day. Right? Maybe they'll pop into your head and it'll bring up whatever, right? Wonderful memories, something about your relationship, maybe even something difficult, right? And yet, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, thinking about them. Right? The impact that they had on your life when they were alive, but also that they're continuing to have this impact on us, even now. So I want to thank you. Go see Gladiator if you get the chance. It was so much better than I expected. I was thinking it was going to be kind of cheesy. I actually saw Titanic for the first time recently too. I never had to see it, and I was ready when I finally got to see it, right? And who is it? Ridley Scott was the director of Gladiator, and that kind of blew me away. He directed Alien and Blade Runner, right? So for me, those are big movies, right? These classic science fiction films. I was wondering, did he do Titanic too? But that's James Cameron. Didn't he do Aliens? He did the second Alien film, right? So these two directors, and these films I'm talking about, Gladiator and we could think about Titanic too, right? These kind of romantic kind of films and portraying these things in this romantic way. And yet, they got me to think, right? They really got me to think about different stuff, not just the Pure Land, what we're going through now in our country, right? Power, how should a world be governed, right? How should a country be governed, right? And I think it doesn't work with an authoritarian kind of figure, right? A dictator. Right? And that I think our country is about being equal, right? Our country is about being free to say what I want, right? Our country is about being free to be the religion I want to be, right? And being here Buddhist is not something to take for granted. That could be taken away anytime, right? To be honest. But I feel like as a Buddhist, and maybe that's why I'm trying to say Nembutsu too a lot. What if you're not allowed to come to temple anymore, right? What if this place gets shut down? You can still say Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab in your own life, right? And that it would still work. It would still work and allow us to be the best versions of ourselves, I think, and keep our loved ones in mind. So let's conclude the Dharma message with Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, Namandab. Okay, let's sing the Gatha Ondokusan II, and it's on page 220 in the big purple book and page 76 in the small book. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, Namandab. Okay, thank you very much. This will conclude our March Shotsuki Monthly Memorial and Adult Dharma Service. And so you can come up in Oshoko if you haven't had a chance already, or visit the Nokotsudo, and then you can hang out for a little bit downstairs too. Okay, thank you.